Well, good evening, everyone, to this event on 150th year of Gandhi, where we are going to present an eminent speaker who will talk about spiritual heritage of India. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our eminent guest speaker this evening, retired Ambassador P.A. Nazarath. Mr. Nazarath was selected for the Indian Foreign Services in the year 1959. He has served in India's diplomatic and consular mission in Tokyo, Rangoon, Lima, London, Chicago, and New York, and as India's High Commissioner to Ghana and Ambassador to Liberia, Egypt, Mexico, and Guatemala. During the period 1982 to 85, Mr. Nazarath was ICCR Director General. Multifaceted Indian cultural festivals were held in Britain, USA, and France. International conferences on Buddhism and national cultures and India and world literature were also held at New Delhi. An India and Greece symposium was held at the European Cultural Center at Delphi, the outcome of which was a scholarly publication titled India and Greece, and subsequently when Mr. Nazarath was ambassador to Egypt and Mexico. Similar symposia were held at Cairo and Mexico City, and India and Egypt and India and Mexico were published. Mr. Nazarath retired in the year 1994, and since then he has been guest lecturer at National Institute of Advanced Studies and Indian Institute of Management in Bangalore and National Defense College, New Delhi. Among foreign institutions, he has delivered lectures at Columbia, Yale, MIT, Stanford University, USA, to name a few. Mr. Nazarath's first book, Gandhi's Outstanding Leadership, published in March 2006, has been published in 12 Indian and 23 foreign languages. The foreword for 12 of its European language editions has been written by former Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev. On October 9, 2007, Mr. Nazarath was presented the Youth and Peace Award by Sri Chinmoy, founder of UN Peace Meditation Group at New York, for his lifetime of world service. Among previous recipients of this award are Pope John Paul II, the Dalai Lama, Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. On October 2, 2012, he delivered the keynote address at the International Day of Nonviolence event at the United Nations in New York. On October 2, 2017, he delivered the keynote address at the International Day of Nonviolence event at United Nations in Geneva. Mr. Nazarath's second book, which is titled Gandhi, the Soul Force Warrior Who Revolutionized Revolution and Spiritualized It, has been published by Wisdom Tree of New Delhi. Its foreword has been written by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. It was released by Mrs. Tara Gandhi Bhattacharjee at India International Center, New Delhi on December 4, 2018, and presented by Mr. Nazarath to President R.N. Kovind at Rashtrapati Bhavan the following morning. And today it gives me immense pleasure to invite the Gandhian and the eminent speaker, Mr. L.N. Nazarath, to please come on stage and deliver the talk.
Professor Srikantan, Mr. Neela Gopal, the Deccan Chronicle are here. This is a very important lecture from my point of view. I will be trying to cover 50 centuries of India's spiritual heritage in 50 minutes. It's going to be quite a challenge, which I will try to meet. What I have done is I have made 52 slides. So a lot of what I have to say will be sort of shown to you on the slides themselves, which will make it easier for you to get what I am saying by looking at the slides. Now, by the spiritual heritage, I don't mean the religious heritage. The spiritual heritage emanates out of the religious and the 9 main religions we have in India, 4 of them born in this country, 5 of them imported into this country. Now, so all that they have contributed in terms of their places of worship, in terms of their sacred books, in terms of their music, and all the others, which is the, if I may say, the flowering or the byproduct of these religions, is what constitutes the religious heritage of India. Now, many people assume that the religious heritage, the spiritual heritage of India begins, when the hymns of the Rig Veda were composed about the year 1500 BC. But in fact, the spiritual heritage of India goes back at least another 1,000 years, in fact, to the Indus Valley civilization. Now, in this seal, the first seal that I am showing you is that of Pashupati, where the creator is being shown here along with a whole lot of animals. And this, in a way, explains the very basic component of India's spiritual heritage, where we treat the creator as someone who's not only created the human race, like a lot of other religions seem to represent him, but as one who has created the whole universe, including all the plant and animal life in it. And it's remarkable that you have the seal. The quality of the seal itself is amazing. Now, this is Pashupati. He is shown as the protector of all life, including animal life. Now, this is the other thing that you see here. It's amazing. This is a Harappan seal of the meditating Pashupati, where the God on earth is shown in a meditative position. In fact, this is described as the beginning of yoga in India and of meditation. In fact, and it could very well be that it is from here the whole concept and practice of yoga has gone elsewhere, because when I was ambassador in Egypt, I was amazed to discover that yoga was known in Egypt at least by 1500 BC, and this is about 3000 BC. So it might be from here that the practice of yoga has gone abroad to Sumeria and to ancient Egypt. Now, so out of this, the Vedic hymns are composed, the Vedas are composed, the Upanishads are composed, and this is the beginning, the birth of what we today know as Hinduism. It's the most amazing of all religions, not only of all Indian religions. It is the most amazing of all religions because it deals not just with God and the human race, like a lot of other religions are focused on, but it deals with God and all the creation, the entire universe. So in fact, it is much more a cosmology than it is a religion. That is the amazing thing about Hinduism. The Dashavatar, for instance, is Darwin 3,000 years before Darwin. And the basic concept seems to be that the truth about the Creator is so large and so enormous, it can't be given in one installment. It can only be given in 10 installments. And what is the first installment? The incarnation in the form of a fish. Science tells us today that all living life as we know on this earth emanated initially as the first little shellfish at the bottom of the sea. That is the first incarnation, the fish. The next one is you go from the waters onto the land, where you have a tortoise. And then, on and on and on until you come to Krishna, the enlightened King Lord Rama, the ideal ruler, the enlightened one Krishna, etc. Now, it is absolutely amazing. Now, the other amazing thing is that unlike a whole lot of other religions who have the concept of the chosen people, from earliest times in India, the thought was ekam sat vipraha bahuda vadanti. The truth is one, but it has many names. Udara charita nam tu vasudhaiva kutumbakam. All mankind is one family. What an amazing thing. Centuries ago, this is what has been thought about, this is what has been practiced in Hinduism. Now, therefore, as I speak of the other amazing thing about Hinduism, I must tell you, is the concept of time. We are today supposed to be in the 51st year of the Lord Brahma. But each year of the Lord Brahma is 4.84 billion years. Can you imagine this? 51 into this particular number gives you about 200 billion years. It seems in a way amazing, but scientists today tell us that our present world, as we know, the present universe, is the Earth is 14 billion years old. And according to the Hindu concept, each creation goes through 4 seasons. Like you have spring, summer, autumn, and winter. They go into this. Then that particular universe collapses, and then the cycle continues like that. Now, these, in scientific terms, are very close to what we are, what scientists are believing today. In the Jewish and the Christian calendars, according to the Jewish calendar, we are supposed to be in 4,883 or something years since creation, since Adam and Eve. According to the Christians, it is 7,000 or something, which is in scientific terms really quite absurd. The other amazing thing about Hinduism is the concept of Tat Tvam Asi. In fact, all of Hinduism, the essence of it can be reduced to these 3 words, Tat Tvam Asi. What does it mean? It means that God is not an old man with a beard sitting up in the sky. He is the supreme energy, the Mahashakti, which pervades the whole universe. And everything that you see, whether it's the star that shines in the sky, whether it's a child that is born, whether it's a flower that blooms, or a bird that sings, it is all a manifestation of this energy. Now, this was a very old concept, but it was on this particular 3 words that Shankara built his great big philosophy of Advaita. But between the birth of Hinduism and the arrival of Advaita, we have at least 1,000 years, because Buddhism has intervened. 600 BC, the Buddha is born, Mahavira at the same time. Now, the Buddha's was in fact a protest movement. By the time of the Buddha is born, Hinduism, the ancient Hinduism, is at least 1,500 years old. It was a protest movement of the great orthodoxy of the priesthood against the caste system, particularly also against animal sacrifice. And this whole concept of birth and rebirth, the endless sort of cycle of births and rebirths. The Buddha had a simple message. He said, the truth is so enormous, or creation is so enormous, we are wasting our time, devising theologies, trying to explain all this. Why are we worried about this? Because the human mind is so limited, we will never understand it in any case. Instead of that, let us focus on trying to reduce suffering in this world. What is the cause of suffering? So he meditated and he created this new religion. And then at the same time you have Mahavira. Now in the Indian tradition, non-violence, ahimsa, was always there since earliest times. But it had certain qualifications. Ahimsa was always recommended except at the tirthas, because this is where the sacrifices, animal sacrifices were offered. And animal sacrifices of all animals, birds, poultry, etc. were offered depending upon who could afford what. And both Buddha and Mahavira felt this is all a great loss of life. How can you propitiate the gods by offering them the blood of innocent animals? So it was a protest against all this, and with the coming of Mahavira, non-violence is made the supreme virtue. Ahimsa paramo dharma. Now at this stage, let me stop a few minutes to show you some of my seals. Now this is Benares. This, in the early stages of Hinduism, temples were not constructed. In fact, it was always the visits to the holy places, to the tirthas, which was in fact the way in which Hinduism was mainly practiced. And from this point of view, the Ganges, which is very sacred, because the belief is that it was brought down from heaven by the sage Bhagirath, but that if it came, it would have splintered the earth because of the force and velocity. So the Lord Shiva took the river and allowed it to flow through his hair to reduce the force of the river coming down. So Benares is certainly the oldest and the most frequented of all the pilgrim centers in the world. And this is the story of the river Ganga. King Bhagirath, through his penance, was responsible for descent of Ganga from heaven to earth. And as the might of the river was too much for earth to withstand, he prayed to Lord Shiva, who caught it in the hair of his matted hair. He caught the river in his matted hair. So now here is Adi Shankara. But as I told you, in between, for 1,000 years, it is the main the spiritual and religious edifice in India, philosophical edifice certainly, was Buddhism, with the conversion of Ashoka to Buddhism in the year 300 BC. From 300 AD, no, sorry, Ashoka is 300, yes, 380 to 700, 300 BC to 700 AD. You have Buddhism is the main sort of philosophic and religious edifice in India. Of course, Hinduism is there, the Gupta kings have ruled during this period, but the main edifice of Hinduism, all the great universities, etc., are Buddhist. It is with the coming of Shankara that the dominance of Hinduism ends, of Buddhism ends. In the meantime, however, Buddhism has traveled abroad because Ashoka sent missionaries all over, first to Sri Lanka, then to Burma, then up north to Kashgar, Khotan, etc., from where it has gone to China, Japan, Korea, Mongolia, all over the place. And amazingly transformed whole societies, because Buddhism came not just as a religion, it came as a whole package of law, of architecture, of monastic life. Everything came as a package and transformed whole societies amazingly without destroying anything. That is the amazing thing. Now, it was Buddhism that went out first, in the year 300 BC with Ashoka. Now, until then, no Hindu priest, no Brahmin had ever gone abroad. Why? Because to go abroad, you had the great risk and ignominy of losing your caste. So no one went abroad. But this rather enterprising Tamil Brahmin is supposed to have a man called Kaundinya gone either from Pumpuhar or one of the southern ports, arrived in those days in a place called Ok Eo, which is today in Cambodia. He set up a little Sanskrit shop there about the time of Christ, so about 300 years after the first Buddhist monk has gone abroad. and he sets up a little Sanskrit shop there. One of his students happens to be a princess of the royal household. He must have been a good-looking fellow, I believe. So she fell in love with him, and they married, and created the first royal line in that part of the world, started by a Brahmin. So until even 800 years later, when the great Khmer Empire is built, people are still talking proudly about how the line began with Kaundinya, the Brahmin. And they have, Buddhism and Hinduism then have transformed all of Southeast Asia, certainly. In the north, it was all Buddhism. Now, let me then show you pictures of how, in this case, Hinduism has spread. This is the great temple at Madurai. This is the great Angkor Wat temple complex in Cambodia. This is the Shiva temple in Prambanan in the middle of Indonesia. All this built by local people, but based on architectural drawings, etc., which the Hindu architects and royal families brought into this part of the world. Now, and this is not only in ancient times. This is the Swaminarayana temple in London. Now, if you go, you will see this. This couldn't be more than 15 or 20 years built, 15, 20 or 25 years ago. I'm showing you all this to show how the Indian spiritual heritage has enriched not just India, but the whole world, and continues to do so. Now, this is, we come to the Lord Buddha, his 4 noble truths. What are the 4 noble truths? There is suffering in this world. Why is there suffering in this world? Because of desire. How do you get rid of suffering? By eliminating desire. And by eliminating desire and following what he called the Eightfold Path, you can, in fact, achieve nirvana even in one lifetime. This was obviously a great message. Instead of being tied up in an unending cycle of births and rebirths, because of karma, he was in fact offering a solution where by leading and following the path that he laid down, you could be rid of this whole cycle. You could find release from this whole cycle of births and rebirths even in one lifetime. This must be part of the reason why it caught on so easily. But also it caught on because Hinduism, because of its priesthood, kept all knowledge to itself. And this is one of the things which amazes me. The Brahmins wouldn't share their knowledge of sacred scripture even with their wives and daughters. Now the Buddha then, created this new message, and he set up Bhikkhu Sanghas and Bhikkhuni Sanghas, where people of all classes were admitted, and even women now, had their own monastery and could do their preaching of the doctrine. And unlike being taught in Sanskrit, in which all the Hindu scriptures were written, this was being promoted in Prakrit, which was the language of the common man. It spread all over the country and the world. Now, these are the 4 noble truths. This is the Eightfold Path. And in the Eightfold Path, it is interesting. There are various right things to do. But the first right thing is right eyesight. And that is good to keep in mind. Because it is through the eyes that the first temptations are created. You see someone has a bigger house, has a bigger, these days, a bigger car, or a lovelier wife. This is what creates, the envy, the animosity, the hatred, etc. So the first thing to do is right eyesight. The next one is right thinking. It's so logical, really, and then right livelihood, etc. This was a simple path which was adopted thereafter by millions. Now, in the initial stage, the Buddha was only represented by his footprints. It was considered very irreverent to show any other depiction of the Buddha. This went on, I think, for almost 300 years, until the irreverent Greeks came to India. They had set up a kingdom in Bactria, which is now Afghanistan. One of the kings, Seleucus Nicator, I think, was converted to Buddhism. And then out of the Greek school came the first Buddha head. This is my most favorite depiction of Buddha. In fact, this is the cover page of a book that we brought out on India and Greece when I was DG ICCR. Now, once this came out, the manifestation of the creation of the depiction of the Buddha in Greek sculpture, thereafter millions of statues of him were made all over the world. And everywhere now, I think if there's anyone to whom you will see more statues made than Jesus Christ or any other. Of course, there are no images of the Holy Prophet or any other founder of a religion. It certainly must be the Buddha. Now, this is the Mahabodhi temple at Bodh Gaya, where the Buddha, received his enlightenment or his buddhi. Now, this is the mega Buddha statue at a place called Longmen in China. And all over you find in Afghanistan, you've heard about the Bamiyan Buddhas, which were destroyed. In China, in Mongolia, I've seen it. All over, even in East Asia, you will find the statues of the Buddha, and really mega statues of the Buddha. And during the Tang dynasty, from about the year 600 to 900 AD, China was predominantly a Buddhist country. And I believe the greatest triumph of Buddhism was in China, because in all other countries where Buddhism went, it was fairly primitive societies it went to. But in China, it was already a country highly civilized for at least 2,000 years. Confucianism and Taoism very well established. And in competition with them, Buddha established itself as what came to be called the third wheel of state. It took very deep roots in China, and despite now so many years of communism over there, when I went to China, I was amazed to see how many people still go to the Buddhist temples, including young ones. So when I was asked about this, what I thought about, I made a point. I said that when something is deeply embedded in the culture of a people, no regime can try and pull it out, pluck it out, and throw it away. The communists tried this in Europe, for instance, in Poland and in Russia. The moment communism collapsed, Eastern Orthodox Christianity in China and Catholicism in Poland have come back in a much bigger way than before. Now, this is in the middle of Indonesia, in fact, just 50 miles away from the Shiva temple at Prambanan, which I showed you. This is the largest Buddhist monument anywhere in the world. It is 2 million cubic meters of this one in the form of a mandala built upwards, and it is still so very well preserved. Now we come to Lord Mahavira. Lord Mahavira was contemporary of the Buddha, as I've told you. These are the 9 tattvas of Jainism. I don't know how many of you can read it. They are in many ways the most ascetic of all India's religions. They believe in leading a very strict life and giving and the charitable and meritorious act is to build temples and to give charity. And since ahimsa is the paramo dharma, never to harm any living life. That is why you will find that Jains, I've seen this when I was growing up over here. Every morning when I go into church, I would find 2 or 3 people, little bags of sugar, going around, sort of feeding the ants or the insects, on the road. They must always have their meal, the Orthodox Iman, before sunset, because once the lamps are lit, then you will have, the flies that come in attracted by the light, and one of them might get burnt or something or the other. So the great emphasis in Jainism is on non-violence and on charity. And of all the temples in India, some of the loveliest ones are those of the Jains. This is the Jain temple at Mount Abu in Rajasthan, all built in white marble. Now we come to the teaching to Sikhism, another most amazing religion. It started by Guru Nanak in the year, he was born in the year 1499, and he has created this new religion. And it's truly amazing because at that time there was a conflict between Hinduism and Islam, mainly because of the invaders who had come in from Afghanistan. No doubt they were Muslim, but they had really come in as looters, as invaders, looking for wealth and other things. Now, at that point it had seemed that Hinduism and Islam were completely incompatible. And Guru Nanak now creates a new religion which selects the best of both and puts them all together. And the amazing thing about the Sikhs is the highest object of worship is the Guru Granth Sahib. It is a book. There are no idols. The central object of worship is a book, and when the book is open, not even a fly must sit on it, so there's constantly someone fanning the book. Now in this holy book, 60% are hymns from the Hindu community. Other 40 are all from the Sufi saints. Amazing, the two are brought together. There are 10 gurus, each one sort of adding to the composition of the hymns, creating the new ones. And also during this period, the 5th guru builds the golden temple. Now let me show you. This is what the Guru has said. There is one God who dwells in every one of God's creations and constitutes the eternal truth. More than any other religion, Sikhism places the greatest emphasis on truth. In fact, truth, God is truth. As Gandhi said, truth is God. And this is the one community that has this form of greeting, Sat Sri Akal. When you meet each other, you don't say good morning or namaste, you say Sat Sri Akal. It is such an amazing thing. I often thought, wondered, and hoped that we could all make this as a national greeting. Sat Sri Akal. What a wonderful thing. That the truth is eternal. Akal means eternal. Now, this is Guru Nanak says, before becoming a Sikh, a Muslim, a Hindu, or a Christian, let us first become human first. Recognize the whole world as one, the 10th Guru, Sri Guru Govind Ji. Now, one of the amazing and most revolutionary things created by Guru Nanak was the langar. That we sit and dine together. Rich man, poor man, Brahmin, untouchable, no distinction. Belong to any religion, anyone can walk in, sit there and have this meal together. I can't think of really a more revolutionary act in a caste-based, highly, rich, poor society. Now I believe it was the 3rd Guru who not only continued the langar, but he made it compulsory that anyone who wanted to come and call on him had to have the langar first. Maybe the 3rd or the 4th Guru. So when Akbar went to call on him, he had to first have the langar sitting with all the others, the Emperor Akbar, before he was received by the Guru. It truly is an amazing and a revolutionary act. Now this is the Golden Temple at Amritsar, one of the most beautiful and inspiring religious monuments anywhere, also sort of set in a pool of water. But the amazing thing is here, I must tell you, is that when this was being built, who do you think is asked to place the foundation stone? A Sufi saint called Sheikh, I forget his name, Sheikh someone or the other, but he was a Sufi saint, building the most sacred temple of the Sikhs, and a Sufi saint has been asked to come and lay the foundation stone. Now, one of the things the Sikhs have placed always a great emphasis is on community service. And this is the latest initiative they have taken. I believe they were started in the States, is all over now, is to plant 1 million trees as a gift to the earth. Everyone's talking about global warming. Here is someone who is doing something about it. Now we come to the Christians. Saint Thomas, one of the 12 of Christ, he was called Doubting Thomas because when the others came and told him that Christ has arisen, he said, I won't believe it until I see him, until I see his wounds, until I place my finger in one of the wounds. So he's always called Doubting Thomas. Doubting Thomas came to India. Within 30 years of the crucifixion, within 20 years, I think, crucifixion of Jesus Christ, the legend is that he landed here in 52 AD. Now this is the picture of the place where he landed, St. Thomas Church in Kodungallur, the birthplace of Indian Christianity. This is a close-up view. It has been made now into a pontifical shrine. Now St. Thomas lived in India, according to the legend, for almost, I think, 30 years. And he set up churches not only in the Kerala area, but he also traveled across South India, and he then had arrived in Madras, or I don't know what it was called those days, where he was preaching. He lived in a cave, and he made converts, etc. But one of the things that he was preaching of was that the people, particularly the rulers, were not to have more than one wife. This was not a very popular message, and apparently the legend is that he was killed. He was shot with an arrow when he was, walking back to his cave from something or the other. And then he bled to death. And one of the legends is that in the church, this is the church at St. Thomas Mount, as it's called, in Chennai, that on the day of his death every year, that the cross would bleed. That is the legend. I don't know whether this is true. But this is the church in Chennai, just near the Chennai airport, where you have this church, the St. Thomas Shrine near Chennai International Airport. Now, all this in the 1st century AD. In the year 1542, St. Francis has come to India. Now, there's been the great, what was called the Reformation, where the Catholic Church was split. Started with Henry VIII, and a whole lot of countries pulled out of the Catholic Church, set up their own churches. It was a major crisis in the Catholic Church. So a man called Ignatius, St. Francis, and maybe 5 others, I am told, set up something called the Society of Jesus. Within 1 year thereafter, St. Francis has arrived in India and has then brought the message of Christ through on the Catholic Church to India. And then he has spent 5 years in India, made a lot of converts. My ancestors and the Mangalorean community, Goan Christians, all trace our Christianity back to him to about 400 years. The Kerala Christians look down on us and say that, oh, you've been Christians only 400 years. We have been Christians for 2000. We hit back by saying, but you were converted by doubting Thomas. Ours is a stronger faith. Now, one of the things which is not known is that Christianity has gone to Indonesia, has gone to Southeast Asia, has gone to Japan from India. St. Francis Xavier has carried it from here, from Goa. Amazing. He converted, he entered Japan in Kagoshima and converted in that area. And there was a large Christian community dating back from those days in Nagasaki. Sadly, when Nagasaki was bombed, maybe the majority of the people who died might have been, most probably, or if not the majority, a large number of them must have been, Christians who had been Christians since the time of Francis Xavier. Now he was waiting to get into China when he died of a fever on an island just off China, maybe somewhere close to Hong Kong. So then his body was brought back. They didn't want to bury him there, but so that the body might sort of decompose quickly, apparently they put a lot of, some sort of a soil with something which would decompose the body quickly. But instead of decomposing the body, it preserved it for the Christians, of course, believe this was miraculously preserved. Now, this is a painting of St. Francis in Japan, a painting by the Japanese artist Utsumi. This is a casket with the body of St. Francis Xavier in the Basilica of Bom Jesus in Goa. And whenever it is exposed, people come from all over the world to see it. Now, the Christian community has made a great contribution to India. The main contribution has been in the field of education, as we all know. Also in the case of social services, leper homes, homes for the aged, for mentally retarded. Or Mother Teresa is the best known example, but there are a whole lot of others. And this is where it is a manifestation of the message of Christ. The gospel of Christ, normally known, is about how he came, he was crucified, he has paid for all our sins, etc., etc. I find this rather difficult to take, because if Christ has paid the price for all our sins, including mine, why I can keep continuing sins again, because that has already been paid. The real message of Christ, as far as I'm concerned, is a simple one. Love one another as I have loved you. For me, all of Christianity can be reduced to that one sentence. And I believe all that you see, the works of charity, are based on that. And Mother Teresa is the best example. I must tell you a story here. When Jerry Brown, the governor of California, came to India, he had heard about Mother Teresa. He wrote to her and said that I would like to come and work 1 month with you, because I'm also Catholic. I feel I must do something. So he said, all right, to come along. So he came, and then he told her, she told him, you have come now, you go to the first section where all the people from the street are brought in. So he went there, and he said he had just gone there when he found someone had just been brought in who was really very old, very sick, he had lost all his faculties, and here were 2 nuns trying to remove these clothes. And he said the sight and the stench of it was so terrible that he couldn't but explain, my God, I wouldn't do this for $1 million. And these 2 nuns, one of whom was an American, told him, neither would we. We do it for the love of Christ. It's an amazing story, and I read about this because he had written about this in the New York Times, of his experience of Mother Teresa's home. He said he felt so ashamed that he had said what he did and the reply that he got. But it's a good illustration, really, of the whole approach of those who get involved in this business, that they do this for the love of Christ. Now, the great contribution of the Christian community is that we gave India a Nobel laureate. She was born in Albania. She came to India, lived all her life in India, always traveled on an Indian passport. I met her for the first time, amazingly, on a plane flying. I was flying from Lima, Peru, where had opened our embassy, to Rome. The plane was half empty. and the plane stopped in Caracas. Who should get but Mother Teresa? The plane was almost empty. The seat was next to her. So I went and asked her, Mother, can I come and sit next to you? She said, yes, of course. I've got only one seat. You can sit wherever you want. And I sat next to her for 8 hours. We were together flying from Caracas to Rome, and I will never forget that. And she told me so much about her work and all the things that she had done. It was an amazing experience for me. Now from there we come to Islam. Islam, this is the place, was supposed to be the first mosque built in India and in Kerala, a place called the Cheruman Juma Masjid. It is not near Cochin, it is closer to Trichur. Now, this was the first photograph, when photographs came in, on the left-hand side of this, but this is the one sort of, as it was, the later version. The first mosque in India, established 629, and that's amazing because, so in other words, it has been built during the lifetime of the Prophet. He has died in 632, so even before he died, apparently some of his first disciples came to India and brought the message, made some converts, and then built this mosque. Now, I must also mention here that 70 or 75% of all the Christians and Muslims in India are Dalits. So for them, both Christianity and Islam came as a religion of liberation. So maybe this is also a reason why both these religions established themselves so well. This is a picture of the same mosque as it is today. This is the Jama Masjid in Delhi, one of the great and grand mosques anywhere in the world. This is the Dargah of the Sufi Saint Muhyiddin Chishti at Ajmer in Rajasthan. The Red Fort in Delhi, see how proudly the Indian flag flies on it. The Taj Mahal at Agra at sunrise, if you notice, is bathed in a beautiful pink light, and I love it best at this point of the morning. Now, one of the contributions, the part of the spiritual heritage of Islam in India, is the miniature painting. It was a very Persian art brought into India by the Mughals, particularly by Jahangir, and a whole new art form was created. But the most amazing thing about this art is that so many of the pictures, of course, there are a lot of these of court life and so and so, the great exploits of the Mughal emperors, their hunting scenes, etc. But there's a whole series of them of Krishna and Radha. Typically Muslim Islamic art form, which in fact now is showing the picture from Krishna and Radha, and there are whole books written about this. Now, among the Muslim heritage to India is the internationally renowned Mughlai cuisine. Now, these are the two great gifts to India in recent times from the Muslim community. APJ Abdul Kalam, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, the father of Indian education in the post-independence age, and Abdul Kalam, certainly the most popular of all our presence, particularly with the younger generation. Now, this is the oldest synagogue in India at Kochi. Now, the Jews were a small group in India, but according to whatever history we know, they came to India in 4 separate lots. The first one have come when Cyrus the Great released them from the Babylonian captivity. That would be about the year 550 or something BC. The next group was supposed to have come when the temple at Jerusalem was destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD. The next group, when they were expelled from Spain, 1492, the year America was discovered, was also the year that the Jews and the Muslims were expelled from Spain. But the number and those who came earlier, got intermarried with Indians, and sort of their traces disappeared. But nonetheless, the mosque at Kochi is called the Pardesi Mosque. This is the picture what you see now. But this is a plaque on that particular mosque, which says that the inscription on the slab belonged to the synagogue in Kochi. It was built in the year 1344. So we know that at least from 1344, if that mosque plaque was from 1344, that the particular synagogue must have been at least 100, 200, 300 years earlier. So there have been synagogues in India at least from the year 1000 AD. Now this is the Chel David Mosque in Pune. This is the largest, most impressive synagogue in India. There were a small community. After the independence, most of the Jews left. There are today supposed to be 70,000 Indian Jews in Israel. About 10 years ago, there were supposed to be only 50 or 53 left in Kochi. Now, most probably, there couldn't be more than 15 or 20. An outstanding Jewish name in the Jewish community is General Jacob of Bangladesh, liberation fame. He was Jewish. The other well-known name is the Bharatanatyam dancer Leela Sampson. Now, this is the Parsis. The Parsis came to India when Islam, the last Sassanid Empire was overthrown, and Islam took over. So they came, a small group of them. They landed in Gujarat, and they met the local king, who gave them a wonderful sort of welcome. They said, "I'm already, this place is full, but we welcome you. You should be like sugar in milk. When you put sugar in milk, the milk doesn't overflow, but it sweetens the milk. This is what I would like you to be." And it's a wonderful message to give to any immigrant community. And the Parsis lived up to it. The small group of people have contributed so much to India. Per capita wise, no other community in India has contributed as much as they have over a period of time. This is the Parsi temple in Mumbai. Yeah, this is Jamshed Tata, who set up the House of Tatars, and in a free enterprise, the community is not just another stakeholder in business, but in fact the very purpose of its existence. And they've lived up to the reputation. All the profits they made in their steel companies, automobile companies, almost everything has been given back in the form of the Indian Institute of Science, the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, a whole lot of other things all over India. Air India started off as Indian Airlines. The other outstanding person is Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw, of also Bangladesh fame. This is Zubin Mehta, who has put India on the global Western music map. Now this is the Baha'i Lotus Temple in Delhi, the most amazing, startling modern religious architecture in India. This is the inside of the temple. This is an aerial view of the temple. Now, so this is an amazing story of India's 50 centuries of religious, of spiritual heritage. I'm sorry I've exceeded my time. I should have finished by 6:45. We started a little late. There won't be time for questions because now there is a dance to follow. I hope you've enjoyed it. I thank you so much. Thank you.
The talk by Mr. Alan Nazarath, retired ambassador, former Director General ICCR, and chairman for Gandhi Center for Science and Human Values. And GMA Bengaluru is honored to have with us such a known scholar and personality with us today and having the talk delivered. In the month of January, Mr. Nazarath delivered a talk, Gandhi, the Soul Force Warrior, who revolutionized and spiritualized it here at NGMA Bengaluru. NGMA Bengaluru is honored and very thankful. We have Yamini Muttana and team to present the dance performance.
Namaste and good evening. Dhiyo yona prachodayat. Dispel the darkness of ignorance with the brilliance of intelligence. Dhiyo is a metaphysical concept based on the universal truth. Sacred mantras from Vedas, Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita have been chosen to create this piece of work. The mantras are from another yuga, and they are codified by highly intelligent rishis whose mentality and worldview is very difficult to comprehend. Dhiyo is an examination of a Vedic chant which grabbed my attention and curiosity. A study into them was extremely enlightening, and that is what I'm sharing with you in this production. I'm humbled by the depth of the knowledge, and I seek to go further. Here, I have attempted to give a visual presentation to the otherwise chanted mantras. Presenting Dhiyo, Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat.
भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् प्रचोदयात् धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् सिन्धुवे नमः। ॐ असमानबलाय नमः। रक्षकाय नमः ॐ आदिभूताय नमः ॐ अच्युताय नमः ॐ अखिलाय नेय नमः ॐ मित्राय नमः ॐ रवये नमः ॐ सूर्याय नमः ॐ भानवे नमः ॐ खगाय नमः.
The wise people speak of that indestructible Ashwatha tree as having its roots above and branches below, whose leaves are the meters or hymns. He who knows it, he is the knower of the Vedas.
ऊर्ध्वमूलम् अधशाखम् अश्वत्थम् प्रभुरव्ययम् अश्वत्थम् प्रभुरव्ययम् अश्वत्थम् प्रभुरव्ययम् छन्दांसि यस्य पर्णानि यस्तं वेद स वेदवित् यस्य तं वेद स वेदवित् यस्तं वेद स वेदवित्. यस्तूर्णनाभैव तन्तुभिः प्रदानजैः स्वभावतः देव एकः वृणोति सनो ददातु ब्रह्माप्यायम्
May the effulgent one, the one within a split of a second, like a spider, spontaneously covers himself with threads made out of his own creative power, grant us union with that knowledge.
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतङ्गमय ॐ शान्तिः 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 ॐ शान्तिः 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 ॐ शान्तिः 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 अम्बतनय हेरम्ब करुणाम्बुदे तव चरण केरगुमे अम्बतनय हेरम्ब करुणाम्बुदे तव चरण केरगुमे दशन मोदक पाशाङ्कुशपाणि असमचारुदेव वन्दिपे दशन मोदक पाशाङ्कुशपाणि असमचारुदेव वन्दिपे अम्बतनय हेरम्ब करुणाम्बुदे तव चरण केरगुवे दशन मोदक पाशाङ्कुशपाणि असमचारुदेव वन्दिपे
धिग्गु तक्क धड्डंगु तद्धिंगिण्णतुं ताकु धन्नं तरिता ततकु धन्नं तरिदै ताकु धन्नं तरि ततकु धन्नं तरि ताकु धन्नकु ततकु धन्नकु तद्धिंगिण्णतुं तक्क तद्धिंगिण्णतुं तै तक्क धिग्गु तद्धिंगिण्णतुं
शरणिम्बे वाणी पूरे कल्याणी वागाभिमानी परब्रह्माणि शरणिम्बे वाणी पूरे कल्याणी वागाभिमानी वरब्रह्माणि सुन्दरवेणी सुचरित्राणि पाडुवे श्रुतिय बेडुवे मदीय सुन्दरवेणी सुचरित्राणि पाडुवे श्रुतिय बेडुवे मदीय शरणिम्बे वाणी पूरे कल्याणी वागाभिमानी परब्रह्माणि सुन्दरवेणी सुचरित्राणि
taka taka tirgada taka tirgada taka thalangu tum taka tadhingena tum tajam tadhingena tum taka jam tadhingena tum ta ga ga tadhingena tum tadhitta kada 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 tum ditta kada 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 tum ta kada 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 tum kada tum kada 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 tum kada tum kada 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 tum
నీలకంఠ త్రిశూల డమరుహస్త అలంకృత పాలనేత్ర కపోల రుండమణి మలాధృత నీలకంఠ త్రిశూల డమరుహస్త అలంకృత పాలనేత్ర కపోల రుండమణి మలాధృత నీలకంఠ త్రిశూల డమరుహస్త అలంకృత పాలనేత్ర కపోల రుండమణి మలాధృత శీలరమ్య విశాల సుగుణ సురాధ్యక్ష గిరిజేశ మహాదేవ నమో నమో విరూపాక్ష శీలరమ్య విశాల సుగుణ సురాధ్యక్ష గిరిజేశ మహాదేవ నమో నమో విరూపాక్ష
తద్ధింగణ tum dum tatakita dhim tatakita thum tatakita nam tatakita takita dhikita tum kita nam kita tadhingena tum dum tatakita dhim tatak.
Yes, as the concluding item for this very wonderful and eventful evening we've had today, I'm going to read out to you the concluding paragraphs of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's address to the 2016 World Sufi Conference at New Delhi. It was a very inspiring address. Sufism became the face of Islam in India, even as it remained deeply rooted in the Holy Quran and Hadith. Sufism blossomed in India's openness and pluralism. It engaged with a spiritual tradition and involved its own Indian ethos, and it helped shape a distinct Islamic heritage of India. We see this heritage in the field of art, architecture, and culture that is part of the fabric of our nation and of our collective daily lives. We see it in the spiritual and intellectual tradition of India. It helps strengthen the inclusive culture that is our great nation's immense contribution to the cultural tapestry of this world. So let us remember the teachings of Holy Quran, that if anyone slew one innocent person, it would be as if he slew a whole people. If anyone saved one life, it would be as if he saved a whole people. Let us be inspired by the message of Hazrat Muhyiddin Chishti. With your spiritual light, dissolve the clouds of discord and war, and spread goodwill, peace, and harmony among people. Let us remember the infinite humanism in Sufi poet Jalaluddin Rumi's words. Contain all human faces in your own, without any judgment of them. Let us also live the sermon of the Bible that calls us to do good, seek peace, and pursue it, and oneness in Kabir's observation that a river and its waves are one, and Guru Nanak Dev Ji's prayer that, Lord, may everyone in the world prosper and be in peace. Let us be inspired by Swami Vivekananda's appeal against divisions, and of all religions to hold the banner of harmony, not of discord. Let us also reaffirm the enduring message of Ahimsa of Lord Buddha and Mahavira. And from this forum, in this land of Gandhi, and of timeless prayers that always end with the invocation of Om Shanti, 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 peace, 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 peace within and in the world. Let us send a message to the world, a melody of harmony and humanity, the embrace of diversity, the spirit of oneness, of service with compassion and generosity, a resolve against terrorism, a rejection of extremism, and a determination to advance peace. Let us challenge the forces of violence with the kindness of our love and universal human values, and restore the light of hope and turn this world into a garden of peace. Thank you so much for all that you did to make this such a wonderful event.